Good morning, sellers, and welcome to eBay Open 2022. Today we're going to be talking about creating the perfect listing. My name is Casey, and I'll be hosting you along the journey today. Quick intro about myself. I've been here at eBay for about 5 years, working with sellers like you the whole entire time to create listings and get them sold in the pockets of buyers, to the homes of buyers, I guess, wherever you want them to go. But, to help you create listings and sell. And one of the things that I love talking about is how to create a good listing and the flow with it. And I think that's why I've been assigned to talk about that today. As far as our agenda goes, we're going to be talking about essentially the pillars of best match, key listing recommendations, item specifics, pricing, shipping and returns, and ways to reach more buyers. And while I know that there are so many steps to take, this will encompass a few of the key things that we need to do in order to reach buyers the best way through the eBay search platform. Let's talk about eBay for a second though, before we get going. For you as a seller, what is the marketplace you're using and how is it working for you? Well, currently there are 1.6 billion active listings on eBay, with around 17 million of you sellers who are working to get products into buyers' home. But let's start and talk about the buyers really quick. In 190 markets around the world, there are buyers available to you, right? Think about it, 190 countries where you can list your item here on our platform and possibly get a buyer in a country you didn't expect to purchase that item. Let's talk about the pillars of best match. These are the ways where we can help make buyers the most comfortable here on the eBay platform and the site. That they're going to be able to know that when they find an item on the site and choose to transact with it, that things are going to be good. This includes trust, value, and relevance. Trust is ultimately the images you choose to put up. Does this make sense? Does this tell a good story visually of your item? The value is the pricing of your item in the ballpark of where it needs to be. Are people looking at your item and not saying the price here is too low or too high, but just right, so people have confidence that they're getting the item that they are looking for? And finally, relevance. These are what you've listed in your title, item specifics, and item description, so people know that this is the right item for them and they're able to get that there. Yeah, so we're going to take you through listing your first items, right? Whether you've done this 5 times or 500 times, we want to make sure that you have all the skills necessary to be able to do this. So let's go ahead and get started in kind of the process of that. So we want to talk about photo and video. Currently on the site, we provide you with many opportunities to list and tell the story of your item, right? Think of it from the buyer's perspective. If you're buying yourself, what do you look for? Do you turn the box around in the store? Do you look at the front, the back, the sides? What details are you needing? Go ahead and do that. And if you've been looking and you list from the actual website itself, you're able to actually upload a video now. You'll have noticed that it's a feature available and you can list about 1 minute of content, which allows you to go ahead and showcase unique features of the item in that video. Does it light up? Does it have a unique feature to it? Or is it an older item that you might want to turn around and showcase unique and things a buyer might want to be aware of? Next, let's talk about creating a quality title. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to write this title out in the same way that you would tell it to a friend, very simply and straightforward. You're going to want to say what it is, the color, the condition, all that kind of stuff so that people know what you're looking for. And that's going to help them, as they search and type in things, know what they're going for. Let's talk about effective title structures and what's going on there. The one I want to highlight personally is Books and Media. It talks about 1,000 Italian recipe cookbook hardcover by the author, right? As a collector of these, I also oftentimes like to know the print and also the year it was released, just to make sure I'm getting exactly what I'm looking for. That helps buyers everywhere know they're getting exactly what they want, and they're able to filter it out and really find that item. If you choose to list and sell an item, right? 1, you're able to list it as a unique and new item, or 2, you're able to do a sell similar on the site. If you choose to do the sell similar there on the site, what you're going to be able to do is see the category that's listed in. You're going to want to double check this, otherwise your item could end up in an incorrect space, and as buyers search for it, they're not going to be able to find it. So go ahead, take a quick minute as you're listing, double check that it is in the right category. Item specifics, they're going to help you reach buyers, right? On every listing you're going to come across, there's going to be this small group of things that we ask of you that are required to fill out. Let's talk about the item specifics, and specifically telling it as is the condition of the item. We all get our inventory from different places. That's what makes eBay a wonderful marketplace. So as you're going through and you're looking at it, it's going to ask you specifically, what is the item condition? Is it new in box? Is it open box? Is this a refurbished item? Does someone else own it? Is it something you've had around the garage and just wanted to sell just because it was time to go? Or is it something that's not working, but you know there's someone out there who might need the parts that are associated with it? Go ahead and make sure that as you're listing it, you get it in the correct way. If you're concerned about what is the correct condition of this item, I'm not quite certain, there will be a blue eye or an infographic space where you can click. It will give you the definitions and allow you to know specifically where your item falls into. That's the beauty of eBay. We have a space for everyone to sell and a section for everyone to go ahead and sell from. So go ahead and make sure that you're listing it correctly. Let's talk about the item description. This is one way that we definitely can tell the story of the item in a very small and open space. What you're going to want to do is make sure that you use quick, concise information that include the correct spelling and that people are able to do it. On the mobile app, if you choose to list it on mobile, do the same as you do on the site. Use black lettering and text. What that does is it makes it easily accessible for everyone, and people who are, looking for items are going to be able to go ahead and find that without having to strain their eyes or be confused at what item I'm actually selling. Plus, one of the things that we always say is to write it as if people can't see the photos. Write out your item description as if people can't see the photos. If you go ahead and do that, also people who might be needing devices with accessibility, the voice to text type thing, will be able to definitely be able to have their system read out successfully and know exactly what they're buying. Let's talk about pricing and delivery of your item. So first off, we got to talk about pricing, right? How much is it going to cost? So luckily for you, eBay's taken a lot of the pain out of how to price it. When you create your listing and get in there, there will be a pricing guidance section that you can look at and see exactly how the approximate price items in the similar range or similar style have been sold for and arranged for that over the past 365 days. You want to make sure that you are educated and informed when you're listing your item, so you'll be able to make an educated and good choice on how much to sell your item for. Now, when you're listing, there are two options for listing. One is buy it now and one is auction. With the buy it now pricing, it's not a set it and let it be forever. It's something that you're going to have to pay attention to as the site is dynamic and prices will fluctuate and change. Remember, the sneaker guy, he had the pair of Vans for $75, everyone else is selling it for $35 on the site. We want to go ahead and make sure that those are matching up, that you change your price and adjust them. So be mindful over, if your listing has been live on the site for a while, go through and double check that. Am I being competitive? Am I being relevant, right? Then let's talk about a couple other things that happen as you go ahead and do that. When you create a good price, especially a quality price with your listing, it's going to be right there in the top search. People are going to be able to find it as they're searching through, and they're not going to be shocked or surprised that you're way out in left field with it. So remember, we definitely want to be the buyer. We definitely want to be competitive on price for the buyer. Then remember, when your item sells, watch for the money to come through. We want that price. We want you to get paid before you send out the item to make sure you receive it. Then finally, shipping and delivery. This is a huge part about it. As we all know, not many of us know how the shipping industry works, but as a new seller, you can be confident that we're going to provide you with as much information on this as we can to help you be successful. So, 1, you can choose your handling time. Remember, you want to choose a timeline that matches. So when your item sells, can you ship it out the same day? Or do you need a day or two to package and get to the post office? Think about it when you're creating your listing. Second, you want to get boxes that are going to work for you. Put your item in, fill the box up with your item in it so that the void fill happens and it secures and keeps your item safe. If your item is shaking around in the truck and there's not much void fill, definitely may arrive broken, and that's not something we want for you. So go ahead and do that. One more thing before we kind of get into the full boxing and shipping of everything out, pick up a scale. They're going to help you out a lot. You're going to be very grateful to not be overcharged for shipping prices, because once you have a box, you stick it on the scale, it's going to tell you the exact weight. You're going to be able to add that into the eBay, tool for shipping, and go ahead and get the item shipped out at that time without worrying that you're overpaying for shipping. Because those prices do tend to fluctuate. Most recently, we had one where the pricing has went up. So, like we said, we don't want to get overcharged for shipping. Go ahead and invest in a scale, because in the long run, it'll probably save you money. And finally, what works best for you? I want to talk about this as well. It's something that is super crucial. You can choose calculate shipping, which is a buyer paid shipping at the time of checkout. So right up to this point, you've got your item, you put it in a box, you weighed it, you know the dimensions, and now you can fill out, is this buyer paid and calculated shipping, where at the time of checkout if you have the information, one, which is location, and two, the weight and dimensions of this box. The buyer will be able to see, one, how long is it going to take for the item to get to me, and two, how much is it going to cost. That way, when they check out, they're also not overpaying for shipping on their end as well. So it saves both of you on this. And then if you do choose to do free shipping as well, go ahead and make sure that you know all those details like I said. And then if you are shipping internationally and you choose to ship internationally, you can definitely check out the global shipping program. I want to call that out. It's where we have partnered with with shipping carriers to make sure that all the information you need when you decide to ship internationally is filled out by the buyer at the time of checkout. All you have to do is drop it in the mail and send it off to our third-party provider. Let's talk about payment. Everything on payment is really quick and easy to know. When you create your first listing, it's going to ask you to put your bank account up there. Go ahead and do that. Then you'll be able to select how often I want my payouts to come. Do you want them in a couple of days? Do you want them to come once a month? Choose that. Also, going back to shipping really quick, once you receive payment, you can use those funds that are available to you to pay for labels. So you're kind of like keeping it all within the eBay site, seeing what's coming out and know your cost availabilities, your cost and the money that's coming out to you, and keeping an active tally of that as well. Finally, we have to talk about returns. It's a huge question. What about returns? What are we doing with them? How do I do it? Do I have to accept them? The real answer is, we would encourage you to do it. It's the best practice on the site. Think about you as a buyer. Are you going to, if you've typed an item into search, are you going to go ahead and choose the one that says ship returns, accept returns? Or are you going to say, this one, is similar but doesn't accept returns? Accepting returns allows you to have buyer confidence. They're going to go ahead and choose you because they know that if something were to happen, you'll take it back or you'll provide an avenue for them. And just be aware, you don't always have to accept free returns in this case. You can do a buyer pays return shipping, so if it's something as if they change their mind, the buyer will pay for return shipping on that to get the item back to you, which goes back to shipping items out. Make sure you have those dimensions correctly so neither you nor the buyer, if a return comes up, has to pay more than the correct amount to ship the item back to you. As far as opportunities to reach more buyers goes, we have a couple of options for you. There's promoted listings. You can do promoted listing standard, promoted listings advanced, or you can do a promotion on an auction item. Promoted listing standard is just a really basic way to say at the time of transaction, I will pay extra for my item. So that's 2% up to the ceiling of what you choose. So be sure to watch your margins and choose that, but it's going to help you get search impressions as you go. Next, if you choose to do promoted listings advanced, that's more of a cost per click method. You'll be paying those fees up front. You won't be waiting until the item is sold to see those fees. So I definitely encourage you, if you are going to choose to do promoted listing advanced and do the cost per click method, go ahead and definitely take the time to make sure you read about that beforehand. Like I said, look for those little information sections on the pages. It's definitely going to help you to know what you're doing. And finally, let's talk about volume pricing. Let's say that you have an item or inventory that goes ahead and has, let's say you have 15 available, and there are things that people buy multiple items of. You can go ahead and offer a discount percentage for buying more of them. One of the things that I like to do, and I'm going to use the example of an IKEA bag. Let's say that I have multiple IKEA bags and I want to list them, like I said, the 10 or 15 of them. If someone buys more than one, I can offer a 5% discount for buying 2. 8% discount for buying 3, maybe a 10% discount for buying 4, right? You can just kind of continue the trend on up there. Also, when you're listing and selling, if you do have a store, you can look into the promotions manager to see other options and available. This will help you reach more buyers. I'm going to step back really quick because I forgot something. Also, with promoted listings, the idea is not to get your item to the very top of the search result every time. It's actually to get more eyes on your listing and enable you to reach a greater audience and find those buyers who might purchase. While we all know that if we promote it, maybe it'll end up on the sponsored listing sections higher up in the search. However, if you go to the bottom of the page when you're on somebody's item as well looking, there are sponsored listings on the bottom. The majority of actually impressions and sales come from those listings at the bottom of other buyers' pages. So or other sellers' listings. So take a look at that and see if that's something you might want to do. But no, the goal of promoted listings and volume pricing in any of these promotions is to get more eyes onto your items so that hopefully they will purchase them. And finally, what I really want to do actually, now that I've kind of given you a quick run through, is I want to talk about doing this right up front and in person. How are we going to do it? How are we going to create this listing? I don't want you to think that I've asked a lot of you. I'm going to do it really quickly with you. So let's start a listing right now. What I want to talk about when we're starting a listing is just why, like I said, you're going to want to create a simple title, something that people know and associate it with. I chose, like I said, the IKEA bag. It's something everyone knows and everyone's seen everywhere. Very simple. Just type in kind of the idea of the title that you want, like we've recommended, something that you tell your friend. It's a large, 19 gallons, it's blue. That kind of information is important. Then you're going to want to go ahead. Once you type that in, it's going to pull up a match. If you choose, on the right-hand side, you'll see listings that have already been created and are in the eBay catalog and available to you to use in your thing. When you select one of those, you're going to want to make sure that you are actually in that bag is in the correct category for you and that a lot of the details are done. However, if you don't want to choose it, look on the left-hand side. It's giving you some recommended item specifics, and at the bottom of that, there will be an option that says continue on my own. If you choose to select that, this is what's going to ask you once you move forward. Confirm the details. Is it new? Yeah, great. But if you're not quite sure where it fits in and where it's going to go, like I said, that little information box, you can click on it and it's actually going to pop up and tell you the different types of listing it's going to be. Remember, these details might change by category a little bit, but this is currently active on the site for the bag that I'm listing. Next, we talked about those photos coming in, right? Currently, you're able to go ahead and list 12 photos and that quick video if you want to do it. So let's go ahead and fill that in right now. Beautiful. We can kind of see it. Make sure that you list with as many photos as we offer you. And I didn't make a video for that, and I apologize with the bag, but you can go ahead and add one of those. It's a minute long, and it makes it so buyers can see the unique properties of your thing. Double check your title. If you choose to use a subtitle, just know there might be extra fees associated with that. Finally, the category, like I said, check that it's in the correct one. I went ahead and used this one. Item specifics, we got to talk about this one more time, and I want to make sure you know it. You are only required to fill in the required item specifics. Any additional or recommended item specifics, they're bonus. You can choose to do them, but remember, you're only required to fill in the required item specifics. Now, let's talk about the description again, right? You're going to want to do things, just describe it to people, exactly what it is, how it works, and what do you want to do? Let's do that now. Perfect. As you can see, I placed some information in it, including some of the dimensions of the bag that are also available in other parts of the listing, but I want to make sure that if somebody wanted to read that, it was available here too. Pricing. Let's search for the pricing on the site. What is the going rate? Let's go ahead and add a quantity there, and then I can go ahead and fill out my shipping method. Also, one quick note. I didn't talk about this earlier, but you're going to want to make sure that you choose a handling time that matches what you can do. If you can receive an order and ship out the item the same day, choose that. If you need an extra day or two to do so, please set that up adequately so you can keep your seller metrics okay and your account health in good space. Finally, like I said, let's talk about reaching more buyers. You can go ahead and choose to promote the listing or go ahead and work on volume pricing. Remember, if you need additional information, help pages are available for that. At the bottom of the page, you're just going to see list for free. That will give you additional information. If you're still newer on the site and you just want to make sure you understand what's going on, be sure to read those details. We provide these for you to make sure that you're never unaware of what's going to be happening. Then go ahead, once you're comfortable, click list it. Your listing is now live. That means it's there for people. People are going to start seeing it. Kind of refresh. You can go back into your active listings and refresh it and see that people are seeing it. And hopefully, very quickly, you'll be reaching a sale. Finally, just want to talk about the key takeaways. Be sure to go ahead and work on those pillars of trust. Make sure that your listing provides all the adequate information that people need. If we go ahead and do that, it'll make it so that people know. 1, when you're listing it, take photos as if there's no item description. And then go ahead and item description, write it as if there are no photos available for the buyer. We want to make sure that they are aware and informed of what they're going to do. And then finally, once again, only go ahead and go through the recommended or the required item specifics and go from there, because that will help you reach your best audience, and go ahead and do that. And once again, thank you for joining me here at the eBay Open 2022 to talk about creating the perfect listing.
Hi, everyone. I think we're transitioning now to a section on updating you on the latest listing tool updates. So I'm just going to jump right in. And we can go to the next slide. Yeah, so I know you've had a lot of feedback on the tool. We thank you for all the feedback from sellers. We actually read every single piece of feedback. And we continue to evolve the user experience based on your feedback and based on our testing as well, to roll out continued improvements. We are by no means done just because we've rolled out the new tool. So what I want to walk you through today is sharing a few updates about what has recently changed and also what's coming. We have a lot more great things coming. So we can go to the next slide. We've already talked about this in the main event today, but I think everyone's pretty excited about being able to list up to 24 photos for free. This is not only available in the new listing tool on desktop, but also in all of our platforms. So if you're listing on the mobile app, you can also do that over there. And we hope that you'll be able to, quickly take advantage of this as you're listing your items for holiday, just in time to be able to showcase all of your products. And we can move to the next slide. So with the new listing tool now, I'll focus the next few slides on what's coming. So there are a few questions actually that I want to address too that was in the Q&A. One of those being that, how do I find things like the variations tool, or how do I find scheduled listings? What you'll notice, and you'll see this as over time as we continue to enhance the experience in the new listing tool, what we've done is start to enable the ability for sellers to tailor the listing tool to the features that you use. So for example, if you use variations, we show you, we let you turn it on so that you can see it. But if you never use variations and you don't want to see it, you can turn it off. So as was mentioned in the reply, to turn on variations, you go to the 3 dots in the upper right corner. You do have to make sure that you're listing a fixed price items, because variations are only applicable to fixed price. So if you're in auction, you'll have to switch it first and then go up and look for it. And similarly, scheduled listings, you'll be able to find that in the options menu as well. But what I'm showing here is in the shipping section. So we recently rolled out a big change to the shipping section. So as mentioned in the Q&A as well, like basically reducing the number of clicks, bringing a lot of the features directly onto the main page instead of having them in sort of this pop-up window. So shipping now has all of the capabilities for you to add, edit your shipping features right on the page. Now, because there's, again, shipping features that not every seller uses, we will be rolling out the ability to turn on or off preferences for what you actually want to use on the main page. So for example, if you never exclude locations, you'd be able to turn that off and just, it would disappear from the main view. You could always turn it back on and see it again if you want to use it in the future. So that just enables you, again, to have a cleaner experience, simpler, and that's tailored to your needs. So we encourage every seller to look for those options that you can tailor and then make the listing tool work better for you that way. We can go to the next slide. On the pricing and pricing section, this is where we've heard feedback from sellers that it can be difficult, takes too many clicks to switch between auction and buy it now. So here again, just like we just did with shipping, we'll be rolling out very soon changes to this section to make everything editable straight on the page. You'll be able to change the format. You'll be able to add reserve price if it's auction, schedule your listings. Again, will be here. Best offer, volume pricing, etc. All will be available here right on the main page. And again, with the preference to be able to turn off. Like for example, if you don't use reserve price in general, then you can turn it off so you don't have to look at it. We can move to the next slide. And then, yeah, so actually this is just showing the auction version of the same module, just to show how easy it is to switch. We can go to the next. Another change we're excited about. So we know loud and clear that item specifics can be challenging. It's something that, as an organization at eBay, we're always trying to find the balance between helping sellers describe their items accurately and comprehensively, and being able to, for buyers to be able to find those their listings based on item specifics. So one step that we're doing to make it easier for sellers to kind of streamline a little bit is that when you make an update to your title, then we will suggest to you which item specifics we can automatically copy from your title. Now, we had a version of this feature in previous versions of the listing tool. Sometimes it was automatic, so and you'd have to remove it. In this case, we're actually moving forward with having a checkpoint so that you as the seller can decide which of these things are relevant and which one do I want to kind of copy down. And that way you don't have to do the double work to update your title and your item specific. So that is also another feature coming soon. And next slide. That concludes some of the major changes that are coming soon. As we said, there's going to be even more for next year. So stay tuned on that. Now, I think in the few minutes we have left, we can answer more live questions. Were there any while I was talking, were there any hot questions that we should look to address?
A quick question some folks had was about the video available in creating listings. Is it only available through the mobile site or just the main site?
Yeah, so right now it's just on the desktop listing tool. We are working, hopefully next year we'll be able to bring it to the mobile app. But we've kind of streamlined, tried to make it as easy as possible to a connection point between mobile and the desktop listing tool. In terms of making, earlier this year, we made it easier to upload photos from mobile to desktop. So we hope to do that as well with video in the future.
I also saw a question from Felix about what was the best way to refresh a listing. I know that from my standpoint as a growth advisor, often I talk to folks about updating, changing photos, providing a better photo, sometimes reorganizing the title, but also adding in item specifics that they might not have had before. So if there are any recommended remnants or any that might be like hugely beneficial to them. But do you have any other recommendations that we might want to do for folks for refreshing a listing off the top of your head?
Yeah, I mean, definitely agree on the price. Like a lot of sellers will kind of drop the price or, put it to get more visibility, a little bit of a bump. I think there's sort of an unofficial answer to this. And previously, I know some sellers used to relist the items. Now, that's not necessarily an effective method because even relisted items, the search experience, it looks at the entire history of the listing. So relist doesn't necessarily just refresh. Sometimes sellers will try to use sell similar, but that's not also necessarily, it's not to say that it's like a bulletproof strategy. So I think it's really just a matter of looking at the inventories, looking at the views you have, seeing what might not be. Is there something about the product? Are there other products selling? This is where you can use TerraPeak also to kind of gain some insights onto the demand. Because it's not just about that listing. It's the actual item itself. Our buyers actually looking for those. So
I was going to recommend TerraPeak as well, just because maybe when you started listing it, there was only 5 other ones for sale, and now there's like 100. So I mean, sometimes you have a certain price point, and you look away over here, and you come back, and then the price point has dropped, and you're like, oh, now I'm way overpriced, which may be why I'm not selling.
And then using promoted listings wisely as well, similarly for visibility.
Yeah, because promoted listings, someone asked this in the Q&A, but with promoted listings, someone asked, like, does it hurt me to not use the recommended percentage? And I think hurt isn't the right word, but it's about visibility. And so the recommended is sort of where you're going to be a level playing field with other people, like on average. And then if you go above that, you may get more visibility. And below that, you may get less visibility. So your definition of hurt means you just have possibly less eyeballs on it. I saw a question too about item specifics that we need to update some redundant sections. So we'll pass that on to our structured data team.
Yeah, in general with item specifics, I would say we are trying to work to streamline what we ask sellers to fill out. We know there's sometimes a very high volume of potential item specifics that they're not always relevant to the listing because they're based at the category level. So in the broader category, something might be relevant for 20% of listings, but the other 80% it's not. So, and even in the main chat earlier, There was a question about the not applicable or using NA, and that's not really necessary because you just need to fill out, especially if it's not required, you do have to fill out no matter what. But if it's not required, if it's recommended, the best thing is just fill out the best of your ability what is relevant to your product, and everything else you can pretty much safely ignore.
And we try to give you data of how many people are searching for that. So if you don't know the answer, it's okay. It just, basically don't guess. That's always the advice I give, right? It's okay if they're recommended, if you just skip them. The only things that are required are required. So we did try to do away with the dial thing. Everyone got very obsessed with closing the circle and closing the dial. And we're like, no. And I know it's still in certain places within Seller Hub. So it's okay. It's okay not to close the circle. It's meant to help give you guidance of where that information is being surfaced by buyers. I always I know Casey said it in his thing, but think like a buyer. Don't think like a seller sometimes, right? And if you are not off topic per se, but if you're a buyer and you're looking at the exact same item and you've found the item you want and you're comparing the two different sellers and one accepts returns and one doesn't, at that point, it's not about price. Maybe it's the same price, or maybe it's even $1 or $2 more. You may be willing to spend a little more if that seller accepts returns. So the advice I give is think like a buyer. If you looked at your item from a buyer perspective, would you buy it amongst the other competition you have on the platform? So the whole refreshing your listings things, and also think like a buyer. That's the other thing.
That's super perfect. I did want to ask, I saw a lot about returns and concerns about accepting returns and the window for returns and whatnot. And then how do we block and take care of a buyer? What are your guys' thoughts on that? Kind of how do we talk about this? Accepting returns is a healthy thing and it's a good thing for your buyers, right? It adds value to the transaction. What happens if a transaction goes wrong? What are we doing about that is kind of the consensus of questions I got there.
Are we talking about a significantly not as described situation or a buyer returning based on remorse?
I believe it's more of a not as described claim based off of the questions.
Okay. Yeah, I think that with that, we always encourage, if you think about upstream to the listing, right? We encourage sellers to describe their item as accurately as possible, to disclose any flaws, and use the condition, descriptors and fields, and use the space that they have, in the pictures. So the pictures, the title, and the description and item specifics, those 4 are really important to match up, because sometimes a buyer will read one of the 3 or 4, right? Or 2 of the 4, and then they don't look at the others. And if there's a mismatch, it can kind of get into a downstream, right, issues with the transaction. So as long as as sellers, we're all spending time to do our due diligence, right, to check that everything is accurate, and then not sort of leave out critical information. And of course, it happens to everyone, right? Sometimes you forget, oh, it's inside the purse, there might be a little tear or something, and you didn't take a picture of it, but you put it in. So just, doing that, because the buyers, it'll save you the trouble downstream. Ultimately, though, if you do have a significantly not as described scenario, then you have to, everything is case by case, right? Looking at what the buyer is saying, looking at the original listing and what the listing said, and then, working through it with our customer service agents for the outcome.
Perfect. Yeah.
I would also say to add on that too, is if you're doing sell similar, especially from your own listings or someone else's, or sell one like this, is pay attention to item specific, especially if you're doing clothing or things like that. Because if you take a size medium and the shirt you have is a size small, we do try to warn you to say, double check these are correct, but can also be a bit of a mismatch if your title says size small, but the item specific says size medium, and the buyer filtered on medium, they automatically assume they're getting a medium.
100% perfect. Yeah.
Out of time, actually. This all went really fast.
Yeah, I think essentially we're at the end right here at our 1-minute warning, guys. I think that's it. Thank you so much to both of you for coming in and kind of helping out our sellers here. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat, and I'll go through and try to answer them near the end as well. But in closing, please go ahead and go to a networking session. We have regional networking and topic-specific networking for everyone, so you can kind of get in with sellers who sell items like you and kind of see what they're doing to find success over the holiday season.